I know you're saying the audio is not connected, right? Yeah, I connected it. Thank you so much for calling. Okay, bye bye. So you could you could hear my prayers in silence, and I had just started to say thank you, Chris, for calling me right away. That we are discussing the importance of atma vicara, and not only the importance of it, but the necessity of it. That without having a effectively conducted self-inquiry about yourself, all the rest of the vidya will remain untouched and will not really uh, penetrate the deeper recesses of your heart. And so it is very important and very necessary for us to do Atma Vichara. So, in doing so, we are looking at what's the reason and what's the nature of our making a mistake about ourselves. And so we saw systematically that adhyasa is defined to be a conclusion which is different from the nature of something. If you take something which is true to the nature of it, then it is not adhyasa. But if you do a mistake about it, you don't take it, you mistake it, then it is called adhyasa. And there is a special form of adhyasa, which is not only making a mistake about things that you see or hear or smell or touch, not only the objects that you objectify, but yourself. It's possible the same phenomena that gives rise to an erroneous conclusion about some other thing is equally true for yourself, which is kind of interesting and a very strange possibility, because one would think, how would I be making a mistake about myself? I am what I am. I know myself. I live with me myself all my life. How can I be making a mistake? So this should be well understood, really, that it is indeed possible to make a mistake about myself. And so this is caused by the process of identity, taking on an identity which is by nature false. So this should be thought over this. Just look at this. Taking on any identity, we can make a general statement. Taking on, just look at the words that are in this sentence. Taking on any identity by nature is false. Just think about that. Why? How can we say that? Because the identity is taken in the sense that before you take on the identity, you did not have the qualities of the thing that you identified with. You didn't have it before. So by taking it on, that means that it was not there at one time, and now it is there. And by implication and experience, once it is begun, it will also end. And in fact, I was thinking about this in the Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter, and the teaching begins in the second chapter on the 11th verse of the Bhagavad Gita, as you know, where Krishna starts with a admonition to Arjuna. Because Arjuna is all upset about, what kind of a war are I'm thrust into. I see nothing but destruction, either my friends, my teachers, or my own family, and I am not sure this is what I want to do. And so he went on and on and on because of moha, because all of a sudden, in spite of the fact that the Kauravas had done so bad things to the Pandavas, he had a kind of a soft spot all of a sudden. And so Krishna starts with an admonition. And it starts by saying, Ashocyanan vashochastvam. You are thinking absolutely wrongly. Stop it. It's not the way to lead your life. If you want my advice, then let me tell you what. So he goes on and on. Then on the 28th verse of the second chapter, because the second chapter really is a conglomeration of both the Sankhya, the Vidya, as well as the Sadhana. It's a kind of a summary of the whole Gita, as you know. Both the second chapter and the 18th chapter are summaries of everything about life. So in doing so, Krishna makes this point about starting an identity. If you think about it, if you go back and actually read this verse and understand it through the commentary, here's what it says. Avyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata avyakta nidanani eva tatra ka paridevana. This is how the verse goes. Avyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata avyakta nidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. So really, if you look at the meaning of this verse, this is exactly the implication of taking any identity on. Because implicit in taking the identity means that before that you didn't have the identity. As we saw in the various examples that we took last week, that if you go to a movie, and so before you go to the movie, you have one kind of a mindset and one set of thoughts. This is who I am. I have a family, and I'm seeing this movie, especially these days in Christmas time, people are free with their families and they go and see movies. So you know exactly who you are, what you have to do, and all of that. Then you buy the ticket, and these days, of course, many people just want to just watch it on Netflix on their own. But doesn't matter if you are absorbed in the movie. Then there is a possibility that you will begin to take identity of some character that appeals to you. And generally the character who is a hero or a heroine, who has been gone through a lot of problems and so on, people identify with that. That's how the story is written. In any case, you take on the identity, and during the time when the identity is there, you behave as though you are that character. So encompassing and so complete is this phenomena of identification. So this is what is called tadatmya adhyasa. Tadatmya adhyasa. Here Swami Maheshananji had given other examples, that you meet a guy somewhere at some point in time, and he says that I am a Congress person, and I admire Pandit Nehru and Indira Gandhi and the whole lineage, and how they were instrumental in getting India independence. They are the best people, and I want to really work with them. And you say, really, you are active with them? He says, yes, yes, I'm very active. I am the president of the local youth association of Congress people and so on. I'm just telling you this because when I was growing up in Amritsar, we actually had a convocation of Congress, and I remember my older sister, who was very much involved in doing that. And so I think the older people were all admirers of Congress Party. The younger people were not, and so my uncles, they were all the original BJP Jansangh people. Anyway, going back to the story, you can meet someone and he says, yes, yes, I am a dyed in the wool Congress person. Then you meet him after about 10 years and say, hi, how are you doing? What are you up to? And he says, well, I got disillusioned by politics. So aren't you active in the Congress Party? He says, no, I'm not. I think that those guys really don't know what they're doing. They are very corrupt. And I found out what the truth was, and I no longer identify with them. So Swami Maheswaranji had given that example. Anyway, it doesn't matter which example. The point is, we have the possibility of behaving in consonance with some identity that we take on to ourselves. Now, this is the beginning point. Now, it turns out that in our life, we have taken on the identity of this particular person that I call as me. So you can say, well, you've taken which identity? I have taken the identity of everything about me and mine. They all go together. So along with the me is the mine, my family, my job, my parents, my children. All of it is mine. It's all part of the identity, and me. So we have taken on this identity. So what that means is we took on that identity. Before taking on the identity, we had nothing to do with it. Just like any other truth about taking on the identity. This is what Bhagavad Gita says. Avyaktadini bhutani. He says that the life is full of vyakta madhyani. In between, it seems to be very true. At one time it was not true. And after a while it will cease to be true. Before I got involved with the Congress Party, I was no one. Then I became a volunteer of the Congress Party, stayed there for 10 years, and now I am no longer the volunteer of the Congress Party. He says, Avyaktadini. Avyakta means non-manifest, you don't even know who you were. And Vyakta Madhyani. Vyakta Madhyani means that in the Madhya, in the middle, it is manifest. And that means after a while you will no longer be Avyaktam Nidhanani eva. It will cease to be Vyakta. It will be Avyakta. Nidhanani means the end will be Avyakta alone. Tatra ka paridevana he Bharata. He says, can I tell you something? It is just like you are crying and you have in the movie, and you were not crying before you came to the movie, And after you leave the movie, you are going to be back again into your some other life. In the middle, you're crying, and you're crying very hard, and you're saying that I don't like this war and so on. He says, this doesn't make any sense, Arjuna. Listen to me. Please understand what I'm telling you. So this is exactly what the message is. This is a very important message. Sometimes this is what the nature of atma vicara is. Atma vichara doesn't mean that you have a bunch of things that you, even when I'm talking about the Gita verses and so on, we can take it academically. Oh, I know Gita, it says avyakta madhanani eva, this, that, the other. But we have not internalized exactly what it means. And we have to look at the full implication of it. And when we see the full implication, it is this. This is what we need to see. My identity in my entire life was something that I took on. Thing that I took on. I didn't have that identity before. So where was I before? Well, that we have to think about that some other time. What were we? But we were not this. That's for sure. So this whole thing about being given a particular set of shariras, of bodies, the sthula sharira and the sukshma sharira and the karana sharira, this whole set of identity is what I call me. This I took on, and I am in the middle of that. And it is an identity. This is what we have to think about. And why do you say we are an identity? Because look at the definition of an identity. This is exactly what it is. Avyaktadini bhutani means that these things that are there were not there. This is the definition of an identity. Because something which is never started and will never end, which is constant, that's me. That can be me. It's not clear to me that it's me yet, but it should be clear to me. But for sure. So, at a certain point, something which comes and goes cannot be me because it's an identity. This is the implication that we have to think about. This is what the Atma Vichara is all about. In doing so, our acharyas have very carefully said that this phenomena of taking ourselves as an identity is done in 3 segments. 3 segments, 3 types. This is what the Drikdrishya Viveka verses number 8 and 9 point out, and this is what is pointed out in other places also. 3. So this is what is called Tadatmya Adhyasa segmentation. There are 3 segments of it, 3 types of it. They all work together. They all kind of reinforce each other. So let's go through them. We did quite a bit of that in the first type, which is Sahaja Sahaja Adhyasa. This is, I think, all 3 of them are very important, but the Sahaja Adhyasa, I hope that you had a chance to, through our meditation and explanation of the last class, got a feel for what Sahaja Adhyasa is. And what it is, this is just a phenomenal thing. The more we think about it, it's just amazing. You see, this is where the elements of the creation, the elements that the method of creation by Ishvara has to be understood. So Ishvara's creation, it is not purposely created, but this is the way it is. It is really through mirror work. Through mirror work, really. Through having one person and a variety of other mirrors that reflect and make it multiple people. Only one of it is real, which is called Bimba. And then you have a lot of other copies of it, which is called Pratibimba, that have a lower level of reality. This is what all creation is. It's just absolutely phenomenal how this world's creation is. It is just a very real make-believe. If I can just coin that, a real make-believe. A make-believe that looks very real. Is what it is. And so this is done through reflections. It's done through reflections. Here, Swami Maheshananji had given this example. He says, supposing you have 3 pots of water, three pots full of water. One of them where you put the green powder in it, so it becomes green water. Another one is yellow water, yellow powder, and another one is red. Then you put 3 different powders. Now, the sunlight, if you put all of these 3 pots on the sunlight will illuminate the green water in the pot. It will also illuminate the yellow water in another pot and a red water in another pot. There are 3 different colors. Now, the light which is making them glow in the colors is the same. There's no difference. Not a green light and a yellow light and a red light. It appears to be, in fact, this is interesting because if there is no light, there is no color. There is no color. Only when there is light, there is color. But the color is through the upadhi of the pots. And so in some ways, if we just look at this phenomena, if we look at this phenomena as a living being, human being, so the living being has a sthula sharira, which is the pot, and it has the sukshma sharira, which is the water in the pot, and it has the sakshi, in some ways the karana sharira, even more than the karana sharira. But the one, you can say it is a karana sharira because without that you will not illuminate either the sthula sharira or the sukshma sharira. So the reason for them to be illuminated is due to the sakshi. So in that sense you can say the karana sharira. So the sakshi remains the same, but the sthula and the sukshma shariras can be different. Now, suppose you narrow it down to a single part with the water. And as you know, the colors sometimes refer to the 3 types of qualities that we have. Sattva guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And so these are depicted in a color scheme also. The Sattva Guna is transparent or white. Sometimes it could be either one of them, either white or transparent. The Rajoguna is red. And the Tamoguna is black. So there it represents the fact that in a Sattva Guna, the reflection of the Chit, which is the consciousness equal to the sunlight, is very transparent. It goes right through. It is very close to the Chit. In the Rajoguna, it is red. And the red represents passion and desire. And the black color represents complete blocking off the light because it doesn't reflect, it absorbs everything. Darkness. Anyway, those are the three colors. Anyway, that's just on the side. Now, very interestingly enough, if you now look at as I said earlier, the color of the water represents the mental qualities. It is the Sukshma Sharira, which can have either Rajas, Tamas or Sattva. Right? Okay. Rajas and Tamas combined together give a lot of problems to people. Give a lot of problems. Why? Because you have desire. The mind creates a excitement about doing things. You're not satisfied with where you are. A sattvic person is the one who's calm, collected, and doesn't have a lot of desires for whatever reasons and so on. But a rajas means one who is very impatient. He wants to do things. And along with tamas, is not able to do it because it doesn't know exactly what I need to do well and creates a problem. Anyway, I'm going too much into detail on that. Here's the point. A person may have a unhappy existence, full of desires, unfulfilled desires, being upset at the world, and so on. And that person wants to now change life. He says, I'm tired of this life. I can't cope up with the world. And the world seems to give me a lot of problems, and I can't, I'm at the wrong spot, and I want to now, you can even say, I just want to die. I want to just commit suicide. So here, the acharyas say, this is not the correct thinking. Why is it not the correct thinking? Because by dying, you are not changing the character and therefore the color of the water in the pot. This is a well-known thing that from one life to the other, our Sukshma Sharira remains more or less the same. The pot changes. It's as though you decided, I can't live in this pot, so you just get transferred into another pot and this pot breaks. But you know what? In the next pot also, it is the same color as you had here. And so when you grow up as a baby, it might take you a little while, but you will have the same problems with the world, no matter where you are. So that's not correct thinking. That is incorrect thinking. The right thinking is to change the color of your mind while you are still alive through the various sadhanas and so on. And we have discussed that a lot, and we will continue to do that. But here's the thing, this again back to the whole concept of identity. I just wanted to bring in this thing about the fact that you have a reflection of you, the Sakshi, has a reflection in your body and mind. So your body and mind are illuminated by your Sakshi. And in a way, this is kind of like you are seeing yourself in the mirror. Because, it's exactly the same way, it's just a different example, that a sunlight is the one that illumines the various colors of the water. If it's a green color water, it looks like a green light. So now here's what we need to think about. We are identified with this vastu called me. And the me consists of the gross bodies, the sthula sharira, like in a pot, and the subtle body, sukshma sharira, which are the thoughts contained in the body. In and out body, it's much more subtle. So it's not as though it is inside a pot, and that example doesn't fully explain it. And so this is what I am identified with. And now we will see how this identity is fooling me, how it is capturing my freedom. So that thing is now done through three ways. There are three different ways, three different ways where my identity plays out. So let's dissect it, all three of them, to see how they all work together to create this lack of freedom in my mind. So the first one, as we saw earlier, is what called sahaja tadhyatma adhyasa. Sahaja. So sahaja means natural and simultaneous. Natural and simultaneous. What does that mean? It means that if you are looking at your reflection, there are two things in that phenomena. One is you, the Sakshi, and the other one is you, the pratibimba, the copy. So there are two things you're looking at. If, for example, if you're standing in the front of a mirror, there are two people, you and your reflection in the mirror. That's exactly what is happening here. You are reflected in your body-mind complex. And there is nothing wrong with this phenomena. This is not the phenomena is not a mistake. This is Ishvara's handiwork. This is how the supposed creation and non-creation, which appears as a creation, works. This is how it works. We want to call it creation, do so. Like, you're standing in the front of multiple mirrors and it's going haywire. There's 24 of you. Sometimes, you have a mirror on this side, sometimes the mirror on the front, sometimes the mirror on, not sometimes, but some places on the right. And if you just look around, you can see the back of your head, the front of your head, all kinds of crazy stuff goes on. Or if you go to a concave mirror or a convex mirror, then you can become fatter or much thinner. All kinds of crazy stuff happens. And if you are upset about that, you cannot be upset about that, because if you are a normal mind, there is a third one called Brahmaja, which is not a normal mind. But the Sahaja and Karmaja are through normal minds. If you're going to a museum where they have these crazy mirrors and you have a normal mind, you laugh at it. You laugh at it. And certainly when you look at your own self in the mirror in the morning for brushing your teeth or whatever, you don't have any problems. You may have a problem in saying that, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I'm getting that old. There is a new fold in my skin over here. That's okay. But when you are looking at yourself in the mirror, you see that there are two people, one which is real and the other one is not real. Isn't it? No problems. So this is what is called Sahaja Tadatmya Adhyasa. Sahaja means there's no problem. It's natural and simultaneous. The problem comes in if, for whatever reason, you cannot distinguish between you and your reflection. If that happens, you can be crying. So even when the identity is complete and you are actually in the movie and the character is getting pummeled by somebody, you get pummeled and you also start crying. And that's because you have forgotten your own identity. You have so much identified with the character that your own is forgotten. But, so here's the thing. Our identity as me is a lot of fun. No matter who you and I might be. We might be successful, unsuccessful, old, new, old, young, doesn't matter. But if we knew that this is my identity, not me, what kind of a problem would that be? A normal mind. I'll be looking forward to seeing what the next step for this reflection is. This is what Vedanta teaches. Please see. It is sahaja tadatmyam. It is natural. Do not be upset. Because it will be there as long as... See, in the case of the mirror, you can, if the mirror has a cover, you can shut it off. Or you can walk away from it and you don't see your reflection. The difference is that as long as you and I are alive, this reflection is there all the time. But the phenomena of being upset about it remains the same. And the key is to understand that this is my reflection. Because as we saw in the Kena Upanishad, these are connected in some way. I'm happy that we're taking this atma vicara after we did the Kena Upanishad, culminating in this verse number 4 of the second chapter. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate amritatvam. Vindate amritam. Beautiful. Very important verse. We must really understand fully. It says that in every thought which is a reflection, you should see that the reflection is there because of me, the Sakshi. So every time I see something, it tells me that you are there without any change. Pratibodha viditam matam. And if you knew that, if you could see that phenomena, which is the truth, amritatvam hi vindate, you become immortal. Because you are immortal. You don't become immortal. You recognize that I am unchanging. So the sahaja tadatmyam should give me this insight that, my God, this world is incapable of giving me any problems. Incapable. Just like your reflection does not give you any problems if you knew who you are. The presence of the world should not be upsetting because it is natural and simultaneous. It's a reflection all the time. This is what we have to see. So this is what is called sahaja tadatmyam. Sahaja tadatmya adhyasa. Okay, so this is number 1. Now let's go to the second one, which is called karmaja tadatmya. So the karmaja tadatmya means you have wrongly identified with something. What is the nature of that something that you have wrongly identified with? That is something which is the result of your previous actions as a jiva. You see the point? Look at this. Just like you go to a movie and you can select a character that you're going to be identified with. And a good movie script writer and a producer director make that choice for you. Because everyone tries to identify with the underdog, the good person. So it's very possible that you may have, supposing you, I don't know, this idea came to me. Supposing you go and see Godfather. I don't remember the exact story of it and so on. So just look at that as an example. So it's very possible that you may like the character of a godfather and you want to identify with that person, even though that person is doing bad things, he's getting people killed, but the very forcefulness of it and so on, the bossiness of it, you like that. I think this is what I would like to do. It's very possible that you may identify with the Godfather. Or there may be another character. I forget the movie now as to who were the aggrieved parties. So maybe there is a character, I think, it must have been there, who was done wrongly by the Godfather. And he suffered and so on. It's very possible that you may identify with that character, not the Godfather. So like that, there's a manipulation by the creators of the movie as to who you're going to identify with. Now, in this life, what is the nature of the person that you and I are identifying with? Because we have already proven that our life is nothing but an identity problem. The question is, what is the nature of the character that I'm identified with? Why am I identified with me rather than with somebody else? The answer to that is my own karmas in the previous births. I create a character with the help of my previous karmas. I create an identity that I am entering into for the duration of this life. So this is what is called prarabdha karma. This is what is called prarabdha karma. Should be well understood. Really, we should really grasp this. So there's some work involved in fashioning who I'm going to be identified in this span of life. And so whatever the job is, you have to make a petition, you have to work for it. Ishvara also, who is the very creator of all of your lives, has to agree, yes, okay, fine. What about some of the bad things that you might have done it in the previous life? Okay, we will let go for now, but for this life, we're going to take up some good karmas, and this is how you're going to be done. Or some bad karma, whatever it is. It's a mixture of different things. Recently when our young granddaughter was born, I really sometimes look at her very intently and say, my gosh, how interesting. Who was she before this time that she decided this is the family I want to be born in? For good or bad, whatever life will tell. But it is a fascinating, I just sometimes look at it. And it all starts, you are you're a womb, and now you're born, and then you are surrounded by some set of people who help you. And so there is a certain identity that you have to design ahead of time. And the prarabdha karma means that for the duration of this life, this is already set in motion. There's nothing much you can do about it. You can do some small things here and there. But your lifespan, your type of life, all of that will be pretty much decided for you. This is what you're going to be identified with. Okay? The only chance so you are now under the control of this character whose identity you have taken on to yourself. So this should be clear. I am sure it is clear. So the question is, the only thing that can happen is, you cannot get rid of this character and this identity until the end of this life, whenever the prarabdha karma finishes. Then you will go back and create a new character for yourself. Modified, obviously. The sthula sharira is gone and the sukshma sharira is retained, and the new karmas that you have been doing in this life also would influence it. So this is how it happens from life to life to life. So the only thing that can happen is, no matter what the identity is that you have taken on, whatever that character is that is already done, through atma vicara, you can free yourself from it by understanding the sahaja adhyasa, that this is not me, this is an identity that I have taken on. And at first your mind says, really? Is that true? The Vedantic Acharya said, that's exactly how it is. And think about it. Examine it. Look at all aspects of it. Because the more you examine it, the truer it will get. And at some point in time when you are, so this is what is called dvija. So dvija means you are, just like in Christianity also, you have a second birth. You have a new identity. And you don't actually have an identity, you have the identity that you have now given up. You have something which is no longer an identity. So there's a understanding of the two things, the reflection and the self. So that's possible. So you have a choice of either living through this identification for the rest of the life, or you can free yourself by self-inquiry. And interestingly enough, Swami Maheshananji points out that the karmaja tadatmyam is you as a jiva, you as a conscious person have done some karmas, good, bad, or in between, somewhere. So the results have to be given to you, right? Because the law of the whole creation is that whatever you do, you will get the right, appropriate results. It is only the worldly results that appear to be out of sync. But spiritual results are never out of sync. They may have some delay, but they will be accurately dispensed by Ishvara. No question about that. So therefore, so the results will come to you based on your previous karma. So the question is, who is going to get the results? You see, the essence of the jiva is pure Sakshi that does not change. Isn't it? It is not made up of any, it's like space. So the self is like the space which is not made up of any particles, no parts. So like you cannot do anything to the space. You cannot color it, you cannot paint it, you cannot burn it. All of those are at a lower level of reality. Space is much higher than that. So similarly, Atma you cannot punish the Atma because it cannot be punished. It is not punishable. It has no changes whatsoever. So the Jiva, the essence of the Jiva cannot be punished. So look at this very carefully. This is a very interesting point. But the punishment has to be given because the very nature of the whole creation is that whatever karmas you do, you will get the appropriate results for that karma. So that has to be fulfilled. Now you cannot take it because you are free from it. So then what? Where does it go? It goes to that reflection that you are identified with. It goes to that person that you are identified with. Let me illustrate it with an example. So suppose there is a person who has committed a terrible crime. Terrible crime. Robbery, murder, whatever. And he has run away. The police cannot catch him. They don't know where to find him. He's nowhere to be found. So they cannot harm that person. You cannot harm that person because you cannot find it. If you cannot find it, how can you harm him? So you know what the police and local authorities can do? It is not done in all the societies, but it can be done. It is done in certain societies. You harm those people that were very close to him, that he identified with. So supposing you had you loved your wife deeply and you were deeply attached to her, but you happened to, you were not a criminal by nature, but you had some kind of a fight with someone, and in an anger you shoot somebody dead. Let's say that happens. Road rage. And then it is a hit and run and you run away. And the police cannot find you. So what the police can do is to arrest his wife. It may not be done in the USA, but in many of the other countries, if you're desperate to find this person who has done something really harmful, you say, I don't care, let's just hold off his wife. Why? Because, and you advertise it. You advertise in the paper that Mr. So-and-so, we should know that we have put your wife in the jail and we are ready to really harm her, and you better give yourself up. This is the only way to punish the person. So the gist of it is that if you cannot punish the person himself, you can punish the person that he is identified with. This is the genesis of karmajam tadatmyam. Ishvara has to dispense the results. He cannot touch you because you are atma. So what he can do, because the punishment has to be given, punishment is given to the entity that you are identified with, which is your body-mind. This is what happens. So, in the first type of tadatmyam, which is sahaja tadatmyam, you are wrongly identified with the I thought, the me. In the karmaja tadatmyam, you are further identified with the body-mind complex that you have taken up in this life. Not only the I thought, but also the body-mind complex that surrounds the I thought. That is the karmaja tadatmya. Okay? Let's go to the last one. The last one is brahmaja tadatmya. Or as the Drikdeshya Viveka says, Bhrantijanyam tadatmyam. In the Bhrantijanyam tadatmyam, neither is it natural, because remember in the Sahaja tadatmyam we had said that a normal mind will not have a problem, right? In the Bhrantijanyam, you don't have a normal mind. You don't have a normal mind. You have a mind which is bothered by illusions, has no rhyme or reason. It's not structured in any way. The reason we say that is because suppose you have taken some drugs or a lot of strong alcohol. You have now lost your normal life, normal mind. And you can be talking about crazy things that have nothing to do with reality. I am the king of the world, and nobody can touch me. I can order, you can do crazy things. Has nothing to do with reality. Swami Mahisharanjik was saying that one time in Mount Abu, where he was doing some repair work for his ashram, he was building some new things. So there were a bunch of workers who were doing the work of changing things, masonry, bricklaying, etc. And one time in the evening, he found this guy who was working during the day as a mason, and he was obviously very inebriated. Swamiji says, I couldn't tell that, that he's drunk so much liquor or something. But he was holding his own sandals in his own hand, and he said, yesterday the local king asked me if you can give me these sandals, which I really like, I will give you my entire kingdom. But he said, I told him, no, Raja, I'm not that kind of a person. I like these sandals and I don't care what kind of a kingdom I can have. So he was talking to Swamiji. He said, this is very strange. What's he talking about? So then the contractor, who his boss happened to come along, and he just took him by the arm and he says, get away from here. You're talking like that to Swamiji. And he came back to Swamiji and he says, sir, I'm very sorry, but this guy gets completely disillusioned and he talks like this all the time. So please don't mind him. I'll make sure that he doesn't come by this way in the evening. So Swamiji says, to me, this was an example of Bhranti-janyam pratadaatmyam. That you have no semblance to the reality and you are imagining things that have nothing to do with who you are. And do you know something? This is our situation in life. This is our situation. Because we have no idea who we are. We are so drunk with the Maya Shakti, far more damaging than any drugs or alcohol. Far more. Much more. It's a very powerful drug that has taken my identity away. Just like a very strong drug, they say, I've heard about this, that in India you have many well-to-do, cultured, rich people who get so drunk that they lie down in the dirty nala, and they are not aware of the fact who they are. Somebody has to push them away. He says something like this: we have no idea who we are. The Shakti of the Paramatma is my Shakti. And in between I'm behaving like somebody that I don't like, because I'm having problems with life and being so much in control of the world, controlled by the world. So as a limited person, this is Bhranti-janyam. And due to the Bhranti-janyam, the other two get embodied. Sahajam and Karmajam also become very firm in my mind. So these three together form a tight grip on me. And I don't really understand how this is happening, why this is happening. And it is only through atma vicara, when it is pointed out how this is happening, then I can see, yes, absolutely. So this is what the whole the steps of the understanding are, that how this identity is causing me problems and how I can get rid of it. So we will continue with this. So at least I think that this part of it, which is the topic of Tadatmya Adhyasa, is now wrapped up with these three kinds of tadatmya adhyasa karmajam, sahajam, karmajam and brahmajam. So that topic is now wrapped up, and we will continue on in the next class a week from today. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Nice to see you all. Nice to have you all be here. Hope you're enjoying the holidays. And please don't forget to tune in, which I'm going to send you the information on. Next Sunday, we will have a Zoom session. We will talk a little bit about the new year beginning, and also have some question answers with you. So I hope you can join. It'll be in a Zoom session, and I will send you all the details in the next day or so. Okay, I don't see any questions. So with that, I take your leave, and hopefully we'll see you either for the Zoom session or a week from today for the next session on the Atma Vichara. Hari Om.